This is the first Tuesday of the month Waupaca City Council meeting.
To our first City Council meeting in May. Today is Tuesday, May 2nd, 2017, and it is 6:01 p.m. I call this meeting to order, and as always, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll ask Sandy to read the clerk's open meeting statement for us.
This meeting and all other meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes, so that citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
And also take roll for us, Sandy.
Brian Smith.
Here.
Steve Hackett.
Here.
Lori Chestnut.
Here.
Paul Hagan.
Here.
Alan Keeland.
Here.
Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
Chuck Whitman.
Here.
Mary Fair.
Here.
And Eric Olson.
Here.
10 present. We have a quorum.
Consent agenda. These are items that we make one motion and vote on all of those items together. Is there anybody on the city council or staff that would like to see any of those items moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda where we would vote on those individually? If none, we would need a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed.
So move.
Motion by Hackett. Second by Peterson that we approve the consent agenda as printed. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Regular agenda. Sandy.
There's been changes to the youth appointments. Under number 8, unfinished business, Sean McGibbon is removed from the library board and placed on the Historic Preservation Commission. And Brandon Kirchmar is removed from Historic and placed on the library board. And we're also removing Kylie Hideman and Kyle Pulvermacher from the library board as alternate youth representatives for this year. And those are the changes.
All right. Besides that, the regular agenda is as printed in your packet. We would need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Fair, second by Hagan, that we approve the regular agenda with those changes that Sandy had stated. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Okay, under announcements and correspondence on page 40, it starts on page 47 of your packet. We have the updated or amended, I guess, Code of Ethics that was put in place back in 2014. On an annual basis, we are to make sure that we understand that we do have a Code of Ethics and that we have read it on an annual basis, and that we understand what it means and that we follow what it says. And without having to go through and read the whole thing, if there is anybody that would like to comment on the Code of Ethics or anything that's in there, this is your time to do that. If not, then we would just need a motion to approve that we have all read it, and we will abide by it again for another year here.
Second.
Motion by Olson, second by Chestnut, that we approve of the Code of Ethics, and we will put that on record that we have agreed to this. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Public input. We have time set aside for non-agenda items. If there is anybody in the audience or council or staff that would like to speak to the city council, this is your opportunity to speak on a non-agenda item. If you do, please step up to the podium give your name and address for the record, and limit your time to 3 minutes or less. Public input. Seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business and trying to finish up on our appointments for this year. Paul, we'll ask President Paul Mayo to take over for this.
Thanks, Mayor. The mayor's appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions are as follows. Library Board, Brandon Kritchmar, Youth Representative. Laura Saunders, Alternate Youth Representative. Parks and Recreation Board, Maricela Garcia, Alternate Youth Representative. Sawyer Sopa, Alternate Youth Representative. Airport Board, Anya Harrington, Alternate Youth Representative. Historic Preservation Commission, Sean McGibbon, Youth Representative. Marissa Hollingshed, Alternate Youth Representative. Emergency Planning Committee, Allison Waite, Alternate Youth Representative. Leilani Gunter, Alternate Youth Representative. After hearing the mayor's appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Whitman, second by Chestnut, that council approve the mayor's appointments to the boards, commissions, and committees that I just mentioned. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Back to you, Mayor.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. Okay, let's move on to new business then. We have a request from the Waupaca Community Arts Board for the use of the historic bandstand in the City Hall grounds and to close off certain city streets, Fulton Street from Main to Jefferson, Union Street from Main to Jefferson, the library parking lot, and Jefferson Street behind the library on Friday, August 18, 2017, and Saturday, August 19, 2017, for the 11th annual Arts on the Square event. And I see that Anita is in the audience. Anita, is there anything you would like to? Anita? Steve? Either one. Steve? Yeah, I'm sorry. Steve, if you mind, just give your name for the record. And
My name's Stephen Ladke. I'm a member of the Waupaca Community Arts Board. And yes, this request that's been submitted is for the Arts on the Square coming up August 18th and 19th. And it's very similar to what we requested in the past. So I think everyone's familiar with Arts on the Square at this point, so I believe it's the same request that we've made in the past.
anything new planned for this year, Steve?
Well, there is something coming up in the beer permit application, which is somewhat new. And I can address that either now or...
Let's wait for that. I
Okay.
was actually talking about maybe a new project that you might have going on during the festival or not.
Oh, well, for the dates of 18th and 19th, sometimes there's always new things going on, but it's all very similar to what's in the past. We are, and we did this last year too. We've worked with various business owners and other people to expand the arts participation for the whole week prior to Arts on the Square, and we call it Articipation Week. So that's going to happen again this year too.
Great.
So,
Great. Council members, anybody have any questions of Steve? As long as you have him at the podium here. Don't make it easy on him now. All right, this, as he said, this, or as we said, it's the 11th annual Arts on the Square. It's a great event that they started, and it's growing every year, so it'll be great to see how it works again this year. we'd be looking for a motion to approve their request for street closures to have the participation in the arts on the square.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Hackett. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Again, Arts on the Square, or the Arts Board, actually, these are a number of things, are asking for the council to approve a temporary Class B license for a number of events that they have coming up this summer. They have the summer night concerts, which I think are held at South Park. Those are June 21st, 2017, to July 19th, August 2nd, and August 16th. They also have the Phantom Art Gallery, which is on June 16th and August 18th and 19th. And then also for the mentioned Arts on the Square, which will be August 18th and 19th. Steve, you want to touch on those for us?
Yes. Yeah, we initiated the Summer Nights concert series last year, and it went over very well. We had approximately 250 people at our concerts there, and it was very well received. We got great comments and everything went smoothly. There were no glitches or incidents or anything like that. So these requests for the summer nights are exactly the same as last year. And we have the shelters already reserved, and I think it's a great way to showcase South Park and the new shelter that's down there. So
Great. Tell us a little bit about the Phantom Art Gallery.
that I will have Anita step up and do that. So.
Okay. So you're running a Phantom Art Gallery on June 16th, but you're also going to do that during the Arts on the Square, is that right?
On June 16th is just the opening.
Okay.
We have had the Phantom Art Gallery, actually we started in 2011, looking at downtown empty stores, and we heard about Phantom Art Galleries so that you put an artist gallery in an empty store, makes it less vacant looking in a downtown. And we started that in 2011, looking at that. Our first Phantom Art Gallery was in the corner of Main and Fulton, where you would walk by the gallery, never be able to go inside, but be able to purchase the art through a couple different stores. And each time we had a new exhibit, we would have an opening night. We were in that building for 3 years. There was a water leak once. We then moved over to where the Union Street Emporium is. We were there for a little bit. We were a little bit of time in your building on Main Street. And now we have been able to rent the far east end of the building at 100 North Main Street, going through the side door into the gallery. We're going to be there for 3 months. We will be open every Friday and Saturday. And we are asking for a permit on our opening night to have wine on the opening night. So that's the June 16 request. Then during Arts on the Square, we will again open the gallery and have it open both on Friday night during that street dance and then during the day when all the artists arrive. And so we're asking that we can have permit, our second of the year wine permit for that time.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I'm assuming that somebody, is it our responsibility to notify the businesses that there's going to be road closures, and then also with this Phantom Art Gallery on June 16th, are you going to ask for some of the parking spaces to be?
No, we will stay inside the building that night.
Okay.
And we, as an art board, always go around and talk to every business each year and tell them that
Great.
that area will be closed. We do have bartenders with licenses for all of those events. We have people on the Arts Board who have gotten their bartender license, so you know about that too.
Great.
Anything else? Because I'm happy to try and answer.
You can see that their request for that temporary license is in your packet. I think it's on page 50, starts on page 53, but it is in your packet, their request. All right, no other questions. If you are okay with that, then we would need a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mail, second by Fair, that we approve of the Waupaca Community Arts Board request for Class B temporary license for beer and wine for the summer night concerts, the Phantom Art Gallery, and the Arts on the Square. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. All right, good luck. Anita, Steve, thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate that. All right, Aaron, Geese.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. You can find my memo on page 63 in the packet. I'm bringing this forward as this has been a conversation in our departments really since 2012 when a roundup was done. And ever since that time, populations of our geese around, especially around Mirror and Shadow Lake, South Park area, and in the last year or so, kind of creeping over towards Rotary Riverview Park, have really been on the rise. It's been an ongoing conversation also with the Friends of Mirror and Shadow Lake as we attend their meetings, and tactics have been used for years and throughout this time period to try to discourage them to get out of our parks, off our beach, and really to no avail. Some of those tactics that have been used include predator decoys, noise guns, or noisemakers, flare guns, egg oiling, which is harder than it sounds just to find the nests, shoreline management tactics, not mowing up to the shore, a lot of things. And really, we've found pretty much every one of them to be not very effective. It would be last summer, early fall, we sent out a survey to some residents around the Mirror and Shadow Lake area. That survey, we got not a ton of responses, 12 responses, and it showed general support for doing a goose roundup. Actually, at that time, we got some write-in comments about the deer population as well. But some of our concerns from a park standpoint are we've gotten increasing complaints from our park users, whether it be at South Park, Lower South Park especially, the beach, and then Rotary Riverview Park around the playground area with feces all over the place. And then maybe even more concerning is the idea that we want to keep our water quality at our beach, at our public beach, as safe as it can be. We did do our first testing of the water quality for E. coli and other harmful bacteria this last summer. Thankfully, everything came back good. But we want to also we want to prevent a problem before it happens. So those are the concerns from our standpoint. We look at it as definitely benefiting our park system, which is why I'm proposing that we pay for 50% of the cost, which averages in 2016 around the area were about $2,000. They do tell you to budget about $3,500, which is cheaper than it was in 2012. They told you to budget around $5,000 at that point. But because of more happening in the area, in the county, and I think less testing required, some of those costs have come down. So with our 50%, and then also reaching out to the residents around Mirror and Shadow Lake, as they would benefit as well, and then for some help financially, whatever did not get covered from their point of view, our friends at Waupaca Parks have agreed to cover that gap. Mike Jones is here from the USDA, and he is the expert on this. Mike was the one our department worked with in 2012, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, as well as would Mike, I'm sure. So with that, are there any questions? Or
Mike, you want to just lead us through how this will
Sure.
take place?
Well, Aaron did a really good job of explaining the background here in Waupaca. We actually did do a roundup with Russ Montgomery and did catch 29 birds back in 2011. A goose roundup is a lot of communities go through this where they try a lot of non-lethal methods that work on small numbers of geese, but once geese numbers kind of get up to a certain level, the fencing, the harassment, the scare devices really don't work very well, and they often push the birds off just to another property. So then the next step, as Aaron mentioned, was the egg oiling, and Waupaca's had an egg oiling permit for a long time, at least since probably 2009 or 10, to oil the eggs. What that means is you put corn oil on it to prevent them from hatching. The reason is the bird won't re-nest if they're oiled rather than removed, and they'll just re-nest. The hardest part, as Aaron mentioned, is finding the nests. It's really difficult, especially in this type of scenario where there's lots of canals and streams and lots of places for those geese to hide. But after they hatch, they all gravitate to the mowed grass areas, and that's kind of what's been going on here. The goose roundup, I'm with the department of the USDA called Wildlife Services, and we deal with nuisance wildlife and wildlife damage issues. And in Wisconsin, the DNR turns all the bird issues over to us because a lot of them are federally protected, including geese. And the DNR only allows our agency to do a roundup and removal. And what the roundup is, geese lose all their flight feathers for about 3 weeks, beginning in mid-June through about the 4th of July. And it's during that time frame when they can be captured because they can't fly. And the young ones haven't developed flight just quite yet. So that's a window of opportunity when they can be captured and removed. It's also a time frame when the DNR will ban them, and the Fish and Wildlife Service as well. The DNR does not allow the birds to be relocated anywhere in the state. They all have to be euthanized. They don't want to spread a problem from here to there or a potential disease issue. So all the birds have to be euthanized. And there's two different options on what to do with the birds after disposition. All the juvenile birds are euthanized, and they're provided to at Poinet, the McKenzie Center, where they feed them to their carnivores. We provide almost 80% of their diet of all the carnivores are the geese we catch in roundups. So all those juvenile birds are used. There's two options on what to do with the adult birds, and the preferred option is to have them processed into goose burger at meat processors, and then that's provided to food pantries. It's a really good program. As Aaron mentioned, the testing requirements have dropped. That really dropped the cost on the roundups too. It used to be $200 per bird down to $50. So it made it much cheaper. We are doing more roundups in Waupaca County every year, and we've done several. I think I provided that cooperative service agreement. That was for a site in Waupaca County last year. We spent 45 minutes at the site, which is a very typical time frame. We caught 44 birds and we're going. So that $2,000 or whatever it is, very close to that, is probably what I would expect for Waupaca, if not maybe even a little bit less. So when we capture the birds, we take the adults. If to go to a food pantry, they're processed by the processor. The test results come back. They test them for mercury and lead. And then once the results are back, we can provide it to a food pantry. You can go to a pantry right here in Waupaca if that's what you choose as well. That's kind of a background on what roundups are, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question. As I recall, last time it was a one-day event, and the weather really didn't cooperate, and so we didn't get as many birds as we would like to have gotten. Is it going to be more than one day this year, if we go with it?
it isn't. I'll let Mike talk to that because he's more familiar than I am with that.
Right.
That's something we've talked about.
We do about 30 sites every year, and I've been doing this for 15 years. We've only been rained out twice, and once was here, where we couldn't even get out of the trucks. It was pouring so bad. I think it kind of got the birds and moved into areas that they not normally were. And then we still did capture, almost 30 of them, but it wasn't like the capture we'd like and usually get. Usually we capture and remove, 90% of the birds if they're there. There's maybe a few that can fly, maybe a few escapees, that type of thing. But it's generally just a one-time event, and that was a definite outlier that we had that day. So it would only be a one-time and that's usually what it takes.
Aaron, do you recall back any comments after the roundup last time, as far as negative comments or anything like that?
Well, I know there was comments leading up to it, which I'm sure you guys probably remember better than I do. After the roundup was done, I don't recall any, although I will say that Russ was more involved than I was at that time.
Okay. Okay. All right. The Parks and Rec, Aaron, is recommending that we go forward with this goose roundup, so we would need a motion to approve that.
I will move that.
Motion by Keelan, second by Peterson, that we approve working with Mike Jones from the USDA to perform a goose roundup in 2017 at a total cost not to exceed $3,500, with 50% of that cost shared between the Parks and Recreation Department organizational budget, and the remainder coming from residents around Mirror and Shadow Lake and or the Friends of Waupaca Parks. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
and Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Aaron. Mike, thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate that. All right, next we have, this is Main Street maintenance repairs, and I'll let Justin start this off, and then we can have some discussion on that.
Thanks, Mayor. My memo can be seen on page 67 of the packet, followed by a couple pictures of the block I'm going to be talking about, and then an aerial map showing a couple options for maintenance at this block. So the block I'm talking about on Main Street is Union to Fulton, and with the whole Main Street project recently being pushed back, correspondence with the DOT, it's brought the focus from the public onto the condition of the roadway. Which we all knew, which is in pretty poor shape to begin with, and is the reason why we were planning this big Main Street project. And pushing it back has now just kind of really put the focus on it. And with that, the mayor has talked to me about it and wanted me to develop a couple options of what we could do. I mean, there's some really bad spots on there. The first couple pictures on page 68 show the couple crosswalks at the intersection of Fulton and Main in front of Attorney Hart's office there. This is probably the worst spot of the entire Main Street that we're looking to do the project. And you can see in the picture, the dark spots are just recent cold patching, so we've tried to do our best to alleviate it, but it's just not good enough. It's, you know, it's a trip hazard, it's an ankle hazard. It just doesn't look well. The next sheet, page 69, is in front of the Blue Angel, in front of City Hall. This is the southbound driving lane of Main Street, and again, you can see much of the same thing, a lot of cracks, potholes, and patching material. So what I did was go out there and look at these bad spots and try to identify if we could patch them, cut out certain sections, and just put in brand new blacktop. So moving on to the last page, page 70 shows you an overview or an aerial view of Main Street, these two blocks. And the two red highlighted areas are basically the patching areas that I've measured out and called for in these two, I guess, the bad spots. This work would be half done by city forces and half done by a contractor or possibly the county. We would cut and remove the pavement, get the base ready, and then have a contractor come in and basically pave it using their material and their equipment. Patches this size are a touch too big for our crew to handle. And then finally, the highlighted yellow area is an option of, well, could we repave the whole block? Basically, similar to what we did at Morton and Demarest last year, we'd hire a contractor, 100%, to come in, mill down some areas, mill in some butt joints at the intersections, and just pave the whole works. So the cost difference here is quite great. So for the patching, we're looking at something just shy of $5,000. I calculated about 4,500, and it depends on the finished product, you know, the total tonnage of the asphalt. And for the whole, I guess, option number one, the whole paving the entire block, we're looking at a price of about $20,000 to $25,000. Now, both of these types of work are definitely going to last till 2021. There's no doubt about it. The benefit of going with, I guess, option one, the $20,000 to $25,000 option, is we do this work and then we forget about this block until the project comes along. We won't have to touch it again. With the patching, there's a possibility that additional patching work's going to need in the next couple of years. Possibly the one spot in between, basically in front of in front of Little Fat Gretchen's there, in between these two red areas, could possibly be done in the next couple of years again. And we're looking at the same thing of possibly spending another $4,000 or $5,000. And there's other spots on Main Street that need this. There's a pretty bad spot in front of the Rosa and Cronies. There's a bad spot near the Danes home. So we have this issue, and it looks like it's going to get worse. So from a department standpoint, I mean, we're a little irritated that, you know, we're doing this. However, there is a need, and we need to address it. And this cuts into our budget. I mean, we had plans to do this type of work on High Street. I believe Councilmember Chestnut mentioned High Street a couple different times, something very similar there. We had plans of replacing a bunch of pavement at the fire barn, and we're going to try and fit this into our budget as best we can. You know, but some things are going to have to shuffle around, you know, if we do the $5,000 option. If we do the $20,000 to $25,000 option, then we're going to be focusing our attention on Kathy Kaz over there, you know, begging and pleading, and I'll have to walk into her office on my knees probably to see where that money's at. But in general, I did not put the dollar amounts on the memo because I did not want you guys to come here with your minds made up already. I wanted you guys to think about it. I'm recommending the patch, the under $5,000 patch work right now, and let's see if we can just get by until the construction actually happens. But I am open to suggestions, comments, and questions.
Eric, go ahead.
I like the patch idea just because it leaves options for other patching in other bad areas. I think we should concentrate in just the areas that are the worst, because if we just do one block, I mentioned that to somebody that we were thinking about. They came to me at work and said, you got to do something about that street. I said, it's possibly in the works, and I told them we were thinking about paving that whole block, and he said, well, why can't you do 2 blocks? And I told him it's very costly, but I think this patching idea does leave options for patching other bad areas like you mentioned. So I kind of like this. I think it's the most cost-effective thing we can do right now.
If you were to do the whole block, you wouldn't touch the other infrastructure though, right? You wouldn't do the water, sewer, any of that?
That's correct. I probably should have clarified. That's going to be like a mill and pave type of work where what I did with that was I took the bid prices from Lake Street, assuming that maybe we'd use the same contractor with the same price, and just ask them to do that work, which is very likely that they could. And yeah, they would come in with a big machine, mill down 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, just enough to, you know, to get us what we need, and then pave over it with just that. So yeah, it'd be just a surface shaving coat.
But then in 4 or 5 years, it'd be torn up anyway, if we go with the Main Street
correct.
project. Yeah, I think patching is a better way to go.
I got a question, Justin. Are we guaranteed that it's going to get redone in 2021? Is it 100%? Or is it going to be longer, shorter, longer?
Well, I guess a lot of that kind of depends on you guys. I mean, it comes down to your orders, and right now we're planning on doing the project in 2021 because that's where the state funding has fallen.
Is that guaranteed for that year then?
Well, it's
I know
not,
it is, but it's not. They say it is, but yeah, that's what I'm asking. Is it gonna be longer? Can we get pushed back again?
well, it's not gonna be shorter
Right.
than
It won't be shorter, but
2021. I mean, we missed doing it in 2018 and 2019 because we chose to go through
Right.
the process that we went through. So, so 2021 is when we are on the list. Now, we're being told that, yeah, you can scribble that in concrete and we're gonna get it done, but who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, but that's what it sounds like. So,
I was just asking
yep.
if it's a guarantee. I know nothing's a guarantee from the state anymore, so.
As far as we know, that's where the money's been allocated, and that's what we're planning. With, things being pushed back, that's a whole different story. Without getting into too much detail, I don't know if tonight's the night to do that, but
Right.
it should happen in 2021. But of course, if we don't want to go down that route of accepting the DOT money, we can do this road anytime.
Right.
But then again, we're going back to Kathy to make this work within the borough. And a lot of work's been put in up to this point to make this project fit with the rest of the projects and this planning and design and the whole 9 yards, so.
I agree, the patch is the way to go.
Anybody else? We need a motion then, if you're okay with that?
I would move to approve option number 2, the patching.
Motion by Hagan and second by Olson that we approve of Justin's option number 2 of just doing the red that's on our map on page 70, which is just patching the Main Street, the worst areas on Main Street between Union and Fulton Street. Any discussion? I struggle, to tell you the truth. I understand that we're going to be redoing this in 4 years, but if you take the time to go out and walk that street, Justin's telling you those are the worst spots, but they're all bad. That whole section is bad. It's not just those 2 sections. So by just patching that, you're not fixing the road. You're just fixing the worst part of the road. That's all you're doing. So we might be back again this year yet, or even next year, asking for even more to be done there. But we'll see. We'll see if this works out. All right? We thought we could get the best price too, because they're going to be in town too, doing Lake Street. So that was another reason why we are bringing this forward at this time.
Well, the unit prices are different, just because the type of work is different. So we did get, using the Lake Street prices is a very efficient price. So you probably won't get much better pricing than that unless we tie in another roadway project, again, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I do get it though. As you drive around town, either in your car or on your bike or walking or whatever, there are a number of intersections that need that patching. And if we use all that money on one block on Main Street, we're probably not doing the city justice by doing that. So, I get it. All right, ready to vote? Sandy will take roll.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
Steve Hackett.
Aye.
Chuck Whitman.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Dave Peterson. Alan Keeland.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
And Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Justin, you're up.
All right, thanks again, Mayor. So page 71 of the packet is my memo to council for a cathodic protection project. I've mentioned this a number of times in the past. Taking a little extra time to make sure we got this right. And just to bring you back up to speed again, cathodic protection is installed on a lot of our big steel facilities that are underground, sometimes above ground, so our water towers, our lift stations. And here we're looking at our lift stations for the sewer utility. And we're looking at two of our lift stations in general, Kiwanis Park and Industrial Park. And as you can see from the memo, these things are pretty old, installed in 75 and 79 respectively. And this sort of thing has been kind of on the minds of the sewer guys for a while now. Back in 2010, they did an initial study and determined that the systems that are installed with the lift stations are no longer functioning. So basically, these systems just impress an electronic current, which prevents corrosion of the metal. And if you don't have that, your steel walls can thin out and ultimately fail. So we're a little concerned with this. So we looked into a little bit deeper this past year and did a little more in-depth survey. Verified that these systems are gone. We also took an additional test of the soil and also of the steel walls themselves, and realized that the thickness of the plating the integrity of it is pretty much still there. So we felt a lot better about it of, hey, these steel cans will hold up, we just need to take care of them. So we decided to move forward with this project. So with that study earlier in 16, identified these two are the oldest, they probably need it the most, and also the epoxy coating, the paint coating on the Kiwanis one, which is our oldest one, is starting to go, it's flaking, it's chipping off, and then we found out that it has lead within the coating itself. So we took the project a little bit further. So we're planning on installing these systems within the Kiwanis and Industrial Park Station, and then also recoating Kiwanis, stripping off all that old paint and reapplying. So being that this is a pretty complex, pretty technical work for both of these things, we divided it up into basically two different bids and two different projects, and we received those bids a couple weeks ago. We have 3 bids for each of the 2 projects, one project being installing the impressed current systems, and one for recoating Kiwanis, removing the lead paint and recoating. Page 72 and 73 show you the bid tabs, and we felt like we got some pretty good pricing representative of what we were looking for within our budget. And after that, I just have some documentation, some information on these contractors showing you that they are competent, they've done this work, and they can handle it. So without further ado, I'm looking for 2 different motions on this. One is to approve cathodic protection management, or CPM, for the impressed current systems on Industrial and Kiwanis Park lift stations. And then also another motion to approve KLM engineering for the remove and recoating of Kiwanis lift station.
Okay, we're okay with taking both those motions together, I'm assuming, right?
Do you want them separate?
Let's see if we get a motion here.
I'll move to approve both of
Okay.
the recommendations.
All right.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Keeler and second by Chestnut that we approve of entering into agreement with CPM of Elburn, Illinois, in the amount of not to exceed $20,064, and then also KLM Engineering of Lake Elmo, Minnesota, in an amount not to exceed $30,408. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Dave Peterson. Aye. Steve Hackett.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Mary Fair.
Aye.
Chuck Whitman.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
And Alan Keeland.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thanks, Justin. Anything else? Let's move on then to license report number 1362. This is on page 82 of your packet. As you can see, as I get there, we have one name on there. This is again for a bartender's license. We would need a motion to approve, and it, of course, is always pending background checks and the payment of any fines owed to the city.
So move.
Motion by Hackett,
Second.
second by Keelan, that we approve of license report number 1362. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. No elongated issues tonight that we're going to discuss. Communications, recommendations of the mayor. I understand that you had a pretty good, I missed the committee of the whole meeting last Tuesday. There was also a steering meeting the next day, and I think, Eric, you were there. And although I think it would be good for the council to be have knowledge of what happened at the steering committee meeting. The day after that, they had some additional comments, and I just heard a few of them today from Justin, but I think I'm going to ask Brennan to, at our next meeting, to just give us a good idea of the ideas that the steering committee also had on that discussion. I don't know if you were the only one at that meeting, Eric, or not, the steering committee, but you can probably speak to that better than I can. But we'll do that at our next meeting too, on May 16th. I think we have, bring popcorn and soda, caffeine soda. We have a few things going on at the 16th meeting, so. Anything else for the good of the meeting tonight? We can't be out before 7 here. Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Keelan, second by Hagan, that we adjourn until our next regular scheduled meeting, which is Tuesday, May 16th, subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. We are adjourned at 6:48 p.m.